John Anderson finished up his quadrilogy of TZ-EPs with another interesting performance in The Old Man in the Cave. Several themes and similar concepts were explored in previous installments of the series, but this one still manages to have an identity of its own. Rod Serling is credited with the teleplay, but the script was based on a short story by Henry Slezar. Slezar was also behind a story that was the basis for the self-improvement of Salvador Ross, an episode we'll be covering later this month. The trend even extended into the 1980s incarnation of the Twilight Zone, where Slezar's work was used again. In 1964, a nuclear war decimated most of the world. One decade later, a small community in what was once the United States of America survives by the guidance of a man named Goldsmith and a figure referred to as the Old Man in the Cave. Goldsmith relays wisdom from the Old Man, including where to plant the group's vegetation, safety of discovered food, and predicting the weather. The Old Man just informed the people to not eat recently found canned food, as it's deemed poisonous from the nuclear blasts, when a jeep pulls up with a small collection of armed military men. They're quick to assert their dominance, with Major French leading the charge. Slowly, he questions Goldsmith's authority and calls the Old Man in the Cave a creation to control the minuscule populace. French begins to turn the people to his side and brings the whole community to the cave, where Goldsmith is forced to open a metal door covering the entrance and expose the truth. This was the second directing job on the show for Alan Crosland Jr. Season 4's hour-long installment, The Parallel, was a decent first outing, but I think The Old Man in the Cave is a stronger showcase for it. Dealing with the subjects of hopelessness, mankind's penchant for self-destruction, and the many functions of faith in any society were deeper topics to explore. Crosland would have 2 more bites at the apple later this season. As I mentioned at the top, John Anderson gave us his final bow in the zone here. He was always a pleasure to see, and his presence was both strong and distinct on screen. This is up there with a passage for trumpet as one of his better turns on the show. Goldsmith has a quiet confidence that presents itself in different ways, most especially when contending with James Coburn's Major French.
There is no old man in the cave. He's a concoction. You made him up. You cut him out of whole cloth.
Open the cave, Goldsmith. You'll have to kill me first.
Coburn was a recognizable star in his own right, known for classic films like The Magnificent Seven, his voice work in projects like Monsters, Inc., and yes, even playing the pivotal role of Thunder Jack in Snow Dogs.
They call him that because he got hit by thunder. Twice. You can't get hit by thunder.
Now pay attention.
He was a formidable foil for Anderson and had no problem commanding the frame with his body language and delivery. French ended up epitomizing human fault in how the script was written, but he's coming from a place many of us can understand. He has a strong personality with the firepower and numbers to do what he wishes. The Major also questions the existence and relevance of Goldsmith's quasi-deity in the cave. His gusto creates the illusion of control, but it's masking a deep desperation for supremacy without considering the true impact of his actions.
Between Buffalo, New York and Atlanta, Georgia, there are probably around 500 people alive. Because there's no authority, there's no discipline. And we're here to give you a little of both.
John Marley as Jason represents the attitudes of the small contingent of survivors as his loyalties change from lightly questioning Goldsmith to indulging in French's call for decadence. Marley was well known for his cinematic work over the years, including his role horsing around in The Godfather. He made one other Zone appearance prior to this, in Season 3's Kick the Can. Under duress and losing the faith of his people, Goldsmith presses a hidden button at the entrance of the cave and allows everyone inside. To their bewilderment, the Old Man is revealed to be a large computer that has been feeding Goldsmith information for years. French directs the mob to destroy the machine, and they violently oblige. The Major exclaims their freedom as Goldsmith looks on, defeated. We dissolve to a short time later. The streets of this community's small, desolate town are now laden with dead bodies, including Major French. Every person who was once protected by Goldsmith through the computer's advice succumbed to the poisonous food they were initially warned about. Goldsmith laments their loss and questions if needless death will always be the destiny of man. He walks off, leaving behind those he compassionately cared for. The way this all played out seemed to me like a reverse of Season 4's On Thursday We Leave for Home. Not just the fact that I think it's the same cave interior, but in the setup and character motivations. In the hour-long episode, Captain William Benteen nobly holds his people together by his faith that a ship will return to save them from their barren planet. When that ship arrives, Colonel Sloan is seen as a savior, which upsets Benteen so much that his jealousy causes him to make decisions that don't serve his people's best interests. The old man in the cave sees another noble leader, Goldsmith, holding his community together with faith. This time, he asks everyone to trust a cave dweller who has kept them all alive for a decade. When the outsiders arrive, Major French is instead the destructive force and disrupts the fragile society. His lack of faith infects the others and leads to their demise. This all puts a spotlight on the importance of faith in something, even if it's something we don't fully understand. The flip side, though, is that Goldsmith was lying to everyone the entire time. I'm sure the character thought the people wouldn't trust a computer with their lives, so he came up with a facade to protect them. It's definitely a gray area. What takes precedence in that situation? Safety or the truth? The more you ponder that question, the more intriguing this episode ends up being, especially in comparison to On Thursday We Leave for Home and other episodes that seem to have a very different twist on a similar message. There are other aspects of this story to consider, like what the source of the computer's power is, how it became encased in that cave, and what Goldsmith's real connection to everything is. But those are questions you can ask yourself that I think make the world this episode takes place in even more fascinating. If you've seen this one, I'd love to know your thoughts. It poses several thought-provoking conundrums that make up some of the best type of writing. In the Twilight Zone.
We forgot faithlessness, Major French. Maybe this has to be the destiny of man. I guess I'll never know. I guess I'll never know.